The hotel room door slams shut behind them, and Zara Mitchell knows this is a mistake. She's pressed against the wall, Senator Connor Walsh's lips finding her neck, his hands pulling her closer, and somewhere in the rational part of her brain that's still functioning, she knows this will destroy everything, her investigation, her credibility, possibly her entire career. "We shouldn't," she breathes, even as her fingers work the buttons of his shirt. "I know." His accent is thicker now, Irish brogue bleeding through the polished American politician veneer. His touch is urgent, possessive, and she responds in ways that have nothing to do with professional journalism. "Tell me to stop." She should. God, she absolutely should. Because 3 hours ago she was interrogating this man about $340 million in suspicious defense contracts. Because the flash drive in her purse contains evidence that could either exonerate him or send him to federal prison. Because every journalism ethics course she ever took is screaming that this moment, his mouth on her skin, the way he's looking at her like she's the only thing in the world that matters, is the definition of compromised objectivity. "Don't stop," she whispers instead, and pulls him into a kiss that tastes like whiskey and terrible decisions. But to understand how Zara Mitchell, investigative journalist, professional skeptic, woman who once turned down a date because the guy worked in congressional communications, ended up in a Georgetown hotel room with the subject of her investigation, we need to go back to where it started. Back to the moment she made the mistake of looking into those green eyes and seeing not just a corrupt politician, but a man carrying secrets that might destroy them both. Zara sits in the press gallery with her laptop open, watching Senator Connor Walsh deflect questions about offshore accounts with the smooth precision of someone who's made lying an art form. She's been following the money trail for 8 months. Shell companies in Dublin, wire transfers to the Cayman Islands, encrypted communications mentioning Project Meridian. Her editor killed the story twice. Not enough proof. Too many powerful people involved. The usual reasons good journalism dies in Washington. But Zara knows she's close. She can feel it in the way Walsh's chief of staff keeps glancing at his phone, in the careful phrasing of the senator's answers, in the fact that someone leaked those offshore account numbers to her in the first place. Someone wants this story told. The question is why? Connor Walsh is performing brilliantly, all Irish charm and calculated deflection. At 42, he's young for a senator, handsome in that way politicians pay consultants to achieve. Expensive haircut, perfectly tailored suit, smile that suggests trustworthiness while his eyes calculate exits. When another journalist asks about his family's construction business in Belfast, he pivots smoothly. "My father built schools and hospitals during the peace process," Connor says, his accent softening just enough to sound authentic. "I build legislation to protect American interests. The two aren't mutually exclusive." It's good. Practiced, completely evasive. Zara stands abruptly. "Senator Walsh, your father's company received $340 million in no-bid contracts during the Reconstruction period. How do you reconcile that with your current anti-corruption platform?" The room goes silent. 50 journalists turn to stare at her, but Zara keeps her eyes locked on Connor Walsh, watching for the crack in his armor. For a fraction of a second, something flickers across his face. Not anger, not fear, but something more complex. Recognition, maybe, or calculation. Then the politician's mask slides back into place. "Miss Mitchell, Washington Truth. Miss Mitchell," he says her name slowly, like he's tasting it. "I'd be happy to provide you with complete transparency on my family's business dealings. In fact, why don't you come by my office tomorrow? I'll give you full access to our records." It's a trap. Every instinct Zara has honed over 10 years of investigative journalism is screaming that this is a trap. Politicians don't offer complete transparency to journalists asking hard questions. They deflect, delay, and deploy expensive lawyers. But it's also an opening, and if she walks away now, she'll never know what Connor Walsh is hiding. "Tomorrow at 10, she says, "I'll bring my questions." "I'll bring my answers." His smile doesn't reach his eyes. This should be interesting. As the press conference continues, Zara types notes with shaking hands. She's just committed to walking into the office of a man who's either a criminal or a patsy, and she has no idea which. What she doesn't know, what she can't know yet, is that Connor Walsh has a file on his desk with her name on it. that it lists her as priority containment, that he spent the last 3 months trying to figure out how to stop her investigation without becoming another politician who mysteriously died in a car accident or suicide, that he's been dreading this moment and anticipating it in equal measure. Zara arrives armed for battle, 3 recording devices, a legal pad filled with questions, and 0 trust. She's dressed professionally, navy suit, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back, projecting confidence and distance, armor against whatever manipulation Connor Walsh has planned. His office is exactly what she expected. Dark wood, American flags, carefully curated family photos, Connor shaking hands with presidents, Connor cutting ribbons at veteran centers, Connor holding someone's baby while looking simultaneously paternal and electable. He's already shed the suit jacket, sleeves rolled to his elbows, reading glasses perched on his nose as he reviews documents. It's disarmingly casual, and Zara hates that she notices the muscles in his forearms, the way his hands move across the pages with unconscious grace. Coffee? He gestures to an expensive espresso machine in the corner. Or are you worried I'll poison you? I'm worried you'll waste my time with carefully curated bullshit while the real records stay buried. He laughs, actually laughs, and it's not his politician laugh. This one sounds genuine, surprised. Christ, they said you were direct, but that's refreshing. All right, Ms. Mitchell, what specifically do you want to know? Zara pulls out her folder, spreading transaction records across his mahogany desk. These payments, routed through 6 different subsidiaries before landing in accounts registered to addresses that don't exist. Your signature appears on the initial authorization for 3 of them. Connor studies the documents, and Zara watches him carefully. He's not performing now. He's actually reading, green eyes scanning the numbers with what looks like genuine concern, or very good acting. With politicians, it's hard to tell the difference. Where did you get these? Does it matter? It does if they're forgeries designed to set me up. He looks up and his gaze is sharp, assessing. Or to set you up. Have you considered that someone might be using you to discredit an investigation that's getting too close to something bigger? The thought has crossed her mind. Multiple times, actually, usually at 3 a.m. when she can't sleep because she's afraid her source is leading her into a career-ending trap. She doesn't admit it. Connor stands, moving around the desk, and suddenly, the spacious office feels smaller. He's taller than she expected, 6'2", maybe 6'3", and he moves with an athlete's grace. He smells like expensive cologne and something else, whiskey maybe, or just the particular scent of a man who's been awake too long, thinking about things he can't say out loud. Here's what I can tell you off the record, Connor says quietly, and Zara notices he's positioned himself between her and the door, not threateningly, but deliberately. There is corruption, massive international, involving people so powerful they could make both of us disappear before breakfast. But these documents, he taps her folder, they're designed to point you toward me and away from them. Convenient for you to say. Convenient for me to prove. He pulls a flash drive from his desk drawer, holding it up so she can see. Encrypted files, communications that show who's really behind Project Meridian, wire transfers, shell company formations, the whole network. But if I give this to you, you become a target. They'll know I'm helping you, which makes me a target too. Zara's heart is racing, but she keeps her voice steady. Why would you help me? He's close enough now that she has to tilt her head to maintain eye contact. Close enough that she can see the exhaustion carved into the lines around his eyes, the hint of stubble he missed shaving this morning, the way his jaw tightens when he's choosing his words carefully. Because I've spent 3 years playing their game, Connor says, and there's an edge of something raw in his voice. Voting their way, keeping my mouth shut while they rob entire countries blind. And I'm fucking tired of it. The profanity sounds genuine. The exhaustion in his voice sounds genuine. But Zara's been fooled before by men who seemed honest right up until they weren't. I don't trust you. Smart. He presses the flash drive into her palm, and his fingers linger just a second too long, warm against her skin. His thumb brushes across her wrist. Accident or intention, she's not sure. But you're going to work with me anyway, because you want the truth more than you want to be safe. He's right. God damn him, he's absolutely right. Zara closes her fingers around the flash drive. What's on here? Names you'll recognize, wire transfers you can verify, and enough evidence to prove that we're both swimming in very dangerous waters. He steps back, and the temperature in the room seems to drop. Meet me Thursday night, somewhere public but not too public. I'll bring more documentation, you'll bring your questions, and we'll figure out how to avoid getting killed. This could be a setup. It could be, but it's not. He returns to his desk, pulling out a business card and writing something on the back. My personal number, not the office line, not my chief of staff, direct to my cell. You call me if anything feels wrong, if you're threatened, if you need help verifying anything on that drive. Day or night. Zara takes the card, studying his handwriting. It's terrible, the scrawl of someone who spent more time typing than writing by hand. Why are you really doing this? She asks. For a moment, Connor looks like he might tell her. His expression shifts, something vulnerable flickering across his face. Then he shakes his head. Ask me again when you've verified the files, when you know I'm not lying about the scope of this thing. Then maybe I'll tell you the truth about what they did to my family. Zara arrives early, choosing a booth with clear sightlines to both exits. She spent 3 days analyzing the flash drive, and Connor Walsh wasn't lying. The evidence is devastating. Wire transfers linking Belfast construction firms to a defense contractor that doesn't actually exist. Payments authorized by signatures from 4 different government officials, including 2 senators and a deputy secretary of state. It's the kind of story that wins Pulitzers or gets journalists killed. Usually both, just in different orders. Connor arrives in jeans and a dark sweater, looking less like a senator and more like the Belfast boy he probably was before politics polished his edges. Without the suit and the haircut and the calculated smile, he looks younger. More dangerous somehow. Like the kind of man who grew up understanding that survival sometimes requires violence. He slides into the booth across from her, orders Jameson neat from a waitress, who clearly recognizes him and waits. I verified the accounts, Zara says without preamble. Cross-referenced with leaked Panama Papers data. You're right, this goes way beyond you. But you still think I'm involved. I think you know more than you're saying. He takes a long drink of whiskey, studying her over the rim of the glass. My father's company was the vehicle, but he didn't know it. They used him, used his reputation, his post-conflict contracts, his access. By the time he figured it out, they threatened my sister. Told him if he talked, she'd have an accident. She's safe, in Dublin, new identity, thinks she's in witness protection for a crime she didn't commit. His jaw tightens, and Zara sees real anger there, carefully controlled. I got her out 2 years ago. Now I'm getting proof to bury the bastards who used my family as a fucking money laundering scheme. The rawness in his voice makes something crack in her professional armor. This isn't political theater. This is personal, painful, the kind of wound that doesn't heal cleanly. Why are you telling me this? Because you're going to find out anyway. Because I need you to understand that when this breaks, my career's over, my family's reputation is destroyed, and I'm probably going to prison for obstruction, even though I'm the one trying to expose it. He reaches across the table, fingers brushing the edge of her notepad, not quite touching her, but close enough that she feels the heat of his hand. And because someone needs to tell the story right, someone who won't be bought off or scared off. You're asking me to trust you. I'm asking you to use me. Get your story, get your Pulitzer, bring down the corrupt fuckers who deserve it. He pauses, something vulnerable flickering across his face. Try to remember I'm one of the good guys, or at least I'm trying to be. The bartender brings Connor's whiskey. He drinks half of it in one swallow, and Zara notices his hands are shaking slightly. What happens if I publish what I already have? She asks. They kill the story, discredit you, and move the money. Then they kill me for giving you the files, and my sister loses her protection. He finishes the whiskey, signaling for another. Or you work with me, we build an airtight case, and we burn their whole operation down together. It's manipulative. It's probably partially bullshit. But when he looks at her, green eyes intense and unguarded in the dim light of the bar, Zara feels something shift, the ground moving beneath her carefully constructed skepticism. One condition, she says, you don't lie to me, not once, about anything. Deal. He extends his hand across the table. Zara takes it. His grip is firm, warm, and when his thumb traces a small circle against her palm before releasing, they both feel the spark of it. The moment that will later seem inevitable, the beginning of something neither of them planned. They pretend not to notice. "So, what's next?" Zara asks, pulling her hand back and opening her notepad. Professional distance, boundaries, all the things good journalists maintain with their sources. "Next, I show you how deep this goes. The connections you haven't found yet. The people behind the people." Connor leans forward and his voice drops. "And you decide whether you're brave enough to go after them. Because once we start this, there's no backing out. They'll know. And they'll come for both of us." On the bar's television, the news shows a story about a whistleblower found dead in an apparent suicide. The timing feels pointed. A reminder that their investigation has lethal stakes. Connor's phone buzzes repeatedly with calls from committee chair that he ignores. His attention stays fixed on Zara, like she's the only thing in the room that matters. "I notice you have a shadow," Zara says quietly, tilting her head toward a man at the bar who's been watching them too closely. Connor glances over, expression darkening. "Yeah, I noticed him 20 minutes ago." "One of theirs?" "Probably. Or one of ours, making sure I don't do anything stupid like collaborate with an investigative journalist." He pulls out his wallet, dropping cash on the table. "We should leave separately. You first. Take the back exit through the kitchen. I'll deal with our friend at the bar." "Connor, I'll text you in an hour to make sure you got home safe. If you don't hear from me..." He stops, jaw working. "If you don't hear from me, publish everything. Don't wait for more proof. Just burn it all down." Zara wants to argue, but the look in his eyes stops her. This isn't dramatics. This is a man who genuinely believes he might not survive the night. "Be careful," she says, and means it more than she expected to. "You too, Zara Mitchell." The way he says her name, soft, almost intimate, makes her stomach flip. "Try not to get yourself killed before we finish this." Walking to her car alone, Zara realizes she just agreed to secretly collaborate with a sitting senator on an investigation that could get them both killed. And worse, far worse, she's starting to believe him, starting to see past the politician to the man underneath, the one carrying 3 years of secrets and trying desperately not to let them crush him. Her phone buzzes an hour later. "Made it home. You? Safe. For now. Good. Sleep. We have a lot of work ahead, but Zara doesn't sleep. She stays up until 3 a.m. going through the flash drive again, cross-referencing names and accounts, building the case that will either make her career or end her life, and thinking about the way Connor Walsh looked at her across that bar table, like she was dangerous and necessary in equal measure, like maybe he was just as surprised by this as she was. They develop a rhythm over the next 6 weeks. Encrypted messages sent through apps that delete themselves after reading. Dead drops of documents in parking garages and coffee shops. Late night meetings where they spread evidence across tables and argue about interpretation, about risk, about how much they can prove versus how much they suspect. Connor texts like someone who grew up before smartphones. Complete sentences, proper punctuation, occasional dry humor that makes her laugh at inappropriate moments. Found 3 more accounts. "You're going to want to sit down for this one," or "Stop working. It's 3 a.m. and you need sleep more than you need to cross-reference Swiss banking regulations." "How do you know I'm still working?" she replies at 3:15. "Because I am, and we're both terrible at this thing called self-preservation." He starts sending coffee to her apartment, always from the local place she mentioned liking, always with a note, fuel for the revolution. CW. She starts replying with annotated documents. "Your handwriting is shit." See page 47. He sends back, "My handwriting got me through Oxford. You're just spoiled by typing." They're not dating. They're absolutely not dating. But somewhere between the document reviews and the death threats, they start learning each other in pieces. Connor takes his coffee black with too much sugar. Thinks better when he's moving, so their meetings become dawn walks along the C&O Canal when no one's watching. Has nightmares about his sister that wake him up at 2 a.m., which Zara only knows because he once texted her at that hour with a new lead and later admitted he couldn't sleep. Zara works until she forgets to eat, so Connor starts, accidentally, ordering too much Thai food during their document review sessions. gets focused to the point of tunnel vision, which means she misses obvious things until Connor points them out. Has a tell when she's lying, touches her left earring, that she doesn't realize she has until he mentions it. "You just did it again," Connor says one night, 3 weeks into their collaboration. They're in his Georgetown townhouse at 1 a.m., papers spread across every surface, working through a particularly complex shell company structure. "Did what?" "Touched your earring, which means you're lying about something." He looks up from his laptop, eyes sharp despite the exhaustion. "What aren't you telling me?" Zara drops her hand guiltily. "Nothing." "Earring, Zara. It's not about the investigation." "Then what?" He closes his laptop, giving her his full attention. It's unnerving the way he focuses on people, like they're the only thing in the world that matters in that moment. "My editor wants me to introduce you to him, officially, on the record. He's getting nervous about anonymous sources and needs to verify you're real." Connor is quiet for a long moment. "That's not safe, for either of us." "I know. If your editor knows who I am, that's another person who can be compromised, another leak point." "I know that too." Zara stands, pacing his study. "But he won't let me publish without it. He needs corroboration, a second source, something beyond documents that could theoretically be fabricated." "They're not fabricated." "I know that. You know that. But journalism requires verification. And right now, you're a ghost, providing evidence that implicates some of the most powerful people in Washington." She stops, meeting his eyes. "I need you to trust me. Trust my editor, or we can't move forward." Connor runs both hands through his hair. A gesture she's learned means he's weighing options he doesn't like. "Your editor knows about us, about..." He gestures at the space between them, the papers and laptops and months of late nights that have created something neither of them has named yet. "There is no us," Zara says automatically. "We're journalist and source. That's it." "Right." His voice is carefully neutral. "Of course. But they both know she's lying. They've just traced $480 million through 12 countries back to a single defense contractor, proof that connects everything." Zara is pacing, electric with adrenaline, dictating notes into her phone. Connor's at his laptop, downloading files before someone realizes they've been accessed and scrubs them. "We have them," Zara breathes. "Holy shit, Connor, we actually have them." He looks up, grinning. Actually grinning, not the political smile, but something boyish and wild. "You're brilliant. You know that? Fucking brilliant. You found the Luxembourg connection only because you spotted the pattern in the timestamps." He stands, moving toward her with an energy she hasn't seen before. Relief, maybe, or just the high of finally proving what he suspected for 3 years. "Zara, this is it. This brings down 4 senators, 2 cabinet members, and the CEO of the 3rd largest defense contractor in the world." They're standing too close, the laptop screen casting blue light across his face, and the enormity of what they've done, what they're about to do, crashes over them both. "People are going to hate you," Zara says quietly. "The party, your colleagues, everyone who benefits from the system you're about to expose. I know. You'll probably lose your seat. I know. Your family's name will finally be cleared of crimes they didn't commit." His hand comes up, almost touching her face, then drops, like he's stopping himself from crossing a line they've both been pretending doesn't exist. "That's all I wanted? That's all I've wanted for 3 fucking years." The exhaustion in his voice, the relief, the fear he's trying to hide. It's all there, unguarded for once. Zara sees him clearly. Not the senator, not the potential criminal. Just a man who's been carrying something too heavy for too long and finally found someone willing to help him set it down. "Connor," she whispers, and she doesn't know what she means to say next, but his name tastes different than Senator Walsh. More intimate, more dangerous. "Don't," he says roughly. "Don't say whatever you're about to say because I'm trying very hard to be professional here. And if you look at me like that much longer, I'm going to do something I can't blame on exhaustion or stress or the 5 whiskeys I've had tonight." "What if I want you to?" It's out before she can stop it. Truth spoken in the 1 a.m. darkness of his Georgetown study, surrounded by evidence of conspiracy, standing close enough that she can see his pulse jumping in his throat. "You don't." But he doesn't move away, doesn't put the professional distance back between them. You want the story, you want justice, you want to believe I'm one of the good guys. But you don't want this. His gesture encompasses the charged space between them, all the things they haven't said, haven't acknowledged, have been carefully not doing for weeks. You don't get to tell me what I want. Then what do you want, Zara? She should say the truth or the story or justice, should maintain the professional boundaries that are already so thoroughly shredded they're barely theoretical. Instead, she closes the distance between them and kisses him. For a heartbeat, he's perfectly still, shocked or restraining himself, she's not sure. Then his hand comes up to cup the back of her neck, and he's kissing her back with an intensity that feels like 3 months of tension finally finding release. He tastes like whiskey and coffee and something uniquely him, and when he backs her against the desk, scattering papers they spent hours organizing, she doesn't protest. Her hands find their way beneath his shirt, exploring warmth and muscle, feeling his heart racing against her palm. This is a terrible idea, he murmurs against her mouth. The worst, Zara agrees, pulling him closer. His hands slide to her waist, the touch both gentle and urgent, like he's trying to memorize her, like he knows this might be the only time he gets to do this. Zara. He pulls back just enough to meet her eyes, and his expression is serious despite his obvious arousal. If we do this, I need you to know. The story comes first, always. If I become a liability to the investigation, if you need to expose me along with the rest of them, you do it. No guilt, no hesitation. That's what you're thinking about right now? I'm always thinking about protecting you. It's becoming a rather inconvenient obsession. She laughs, breathless, and kisses him again. This time, it's slower, deeper. Acknowledgement of something shifting between them that has nothing to do with investigations or exposés. His hand trembles slightly against her cheek, and she realizes he's nervous. Connor Walsh, senator and practiced liar, is nervous about kissing her. It makes him human, makes this real. When they finally break apart, foreheads touching, both breathing hard, the laptop is still glowing with evidence that could destroy both their lives. We should work, Connor says without conviction. We should, Zara agrees, not moving. Neither of them does. Finally, Zara steps back, smoothing her shirt, trying to resurrect some professional distance. Her lips feel swollen, her body alive in ways it hasn't been in months, or maybe ever. Not like this. This doesn't change anything, she says, knowing it's a lie. Liar. Okay, this changes everything, but we're going to pretend it doesn't until after we publish. He smiles. That real smile again, the one that makes him look younger, less burdened. After we publish, then what? After we publish, you'll probably be under investigation. I'll be fielding death threats, and we'll both be too busy testifying to Congress to think about whatever this is. So we're talking about this again, after. It's not quite a question. Zara picks up her bag, trying to ignore how much she wants to stay. Wants to keep kissing him, keep touching him, keep pretending they're just two people instead of journalist and source committing what probably amounts to several felonies. After, she agrees, if we both survive. When we both survive, he corrects, and the certainty in his voice makes her believe it might be possible. She's at the door when he speaks again. Zara, she turns. For what it's worth, I've been thinking about doing that since the first time you challenged me in a press conference. You looked like you wanted to eviscerate me with facts and logic, and I found it extremely attractive. Despite everything, the danger, the complications, the absolute disaster this represents, Zara laughs. You're insane. Probably. But I'm not wrong. The investigation expands. So does whatever is happening between them. They're careful. No public meetings, no traceable communications about anything personal. But the nights they spend working increasingly end with stolen moments, with boundaries crossed and then crossed again, with morning light finding them tangled together in ways that have nothing to do with journalism. Connor learns everything about her, not just her investigative methods, but the small tells that give away her thoughts, the way she responds to his presence, what makes her breath catch or her fingers tighten in his hair. Tell me something true, Zara whispers one night, head on his chest in her apartment, listening to his heartbeat slow after hours spent forgetting why this was supposed to be a bad idea. I haven't slept properly since I got elected, Connor says quietly. Every night, I dream about my sister calling me, telling me they found her, that she's in danger because I wasn't smart enough or fast enough to protect her. Zara tilts her head to look at him. His face is shadowed in the darkness, vulnerable in a way he never is during the day. Have you talked to her? Does she know what you're doing? She thinks I cut her off to protect my career, that I chose politics over family. His jaw tightens. It's better if she hates me. Safer. That's the most Irish Catholic martyr bullshit I've ever heard. He laughs, surprised and genuine. You're not wrong. When this breaks, you tell her the truth. She deserves to know. When this breaks, I'll probably be in federal prison for obstruction of justice, withholding evidence, and conspiracy to commit. You're going to be fine, Zara interrupts fiercely. We have documentation proving you were gathering evidence, not participating. Your testimony will be the difference between convictions and mistrials. You sound very confident for someone whose newspaper won't even run the story yet. It's a sore spot. Her editor keeps demanding more proof, more sources, more time. Meanwhile, Zara feels the clock ticking. Every day they wait is another day for the targets to realize they're being investigated, to destroy evidence, to make people disappear. We're close, she says. 2 more sources go on record and we publish. Then it's out there, and no one can bury it. Connor's hand traces lazy patterns on her shoulder blade, calluses catching on her skin. And then? Then you face the Senate Ethics Committee, probably the FBI, and half of Washington tries to destroy your credibility. I meant with us. The question hangs in the darkness. Zara doesn't have an answer. She came to D.C. to break stories, not to fall for complicated Irish senators with sad eyes and hero complexes. But here she is, naked in her bed at 3 a.m., more tangled up in Connor Walsh than in any story she's ever chased. I don't know, she admits. This thing between us, it started as part of the investigation. How do we know what's real? You think I'm faking this? His voice is carefully neutral, but she feels him tense beneath her. I think we're both running on adrenaline and conspiracy theories, and the very real possibility that we might die. It's not exactly a foundation for what? Say it. For anything that lasts beyond the breaking news cycle. Connor sits up abruptly, forcing her to move. In the dim light from the street, his expression is hard to read. You think I'd risk everything, my career, my reputation, my freedom, just to manipulate a journalist into trusting me? That I'd spend 3 months showing you evidence that incriminates my entire family, put my sister's safety in your hands, make myself completely vulnerable to you, and it's all just... what? Strategy? I think people do terrible things when they're desperate. You're right. They do. He reaches for his clothes, and the distance between them suddenly feels like more than physical space. But I'm not desperate to save myself, Zara. I'm desperate to save you, because somewhere between the first meeting and tonight, I stopped being able to imagine doing this without you. And that terrifies me more than any Senate investigation. He's dressing now, movements sharp with anger or hurt or both. Zara wants to take it back, to tell him she didn't mean it the way it sounded, but the journalist in her, the part that's been burned before, keeps her silent. I'll send the final documents tomorrow, Connor says at the door, not looking at her. Everything you need to publish without me. You can break the story solo, keep your credibility clean, and we never have to see each other again. Connor, it's fine. You're right to question this. Question me. It's what makes you good at your job. He pauses, hand on the doorframe. For what it's worth, this was real for me, all of it. Then he's gone, and Zara is alone in her apartment, surrounded by evidence of conspiracy and her own stupidity. She grabs her phone before she can stop herself. Don't send the documents. We finish this together. 3 minutes pass. Then, why? She types and deletes 5 different responses before settling on truth. Because I'm terrified too, and because when I imagine the moment we break this story, you're standing next to me. This time, his response is immediate. Tomorrow night, we plan the publication timeline. Nothing else. Nothing else, she agrees, already knowing it's a lie they're both willing to tell. They're supposed to be working. They lasted almost an hour before Connor kissed her against the kitchen counter, hands finding their way beneath her shirt, and now they're navigating the hallway to his bedroom, with work forgotten downstairs. "We said we were going to focus," Zara murmurs, even as she pulls his shirt over his head. "We're extremely focused." Connor's mouth finds the curve of her neck. "Just not on work." He backs her toward the bed with purpose, and there's a moment where they both pause. The recognition that they're about to cross another line, that this changes everything between them. "Are you sure?" he asks, hands framing her face, giving her the choice. "I'm sure," she says, and means it. What happens next is slow and tender and completely consuming. Connor is attentive and careful, watching her reactions, learning what she needs. There's vulnerability in the way they move together, in the sounds they don't try to hide, and the complete trust required to be this open with someone. When Zara mentioned wearing something special earlier, Connor's response had been immediate. Appreciation mixed with desire, the kind of attention that made her feel seen in ways that had nothing to do with journalism. The connection between them is intense, built on months of tension and trust, and when they finally come together, it's with a sense of rightness that neither expected. After, lying tangled together in the darkness, Zara says what they've both been avoiding. That was... Yeah, Connor agrees, pressing a kiss to her shoulder. It really was. They don't talk about what it means. Not yet. But the way he holds her, protective and possessive and impossibly gentle, says everything they're not ready to admit out loud. Zara wakes to her phone buzzing on the nightstand. Connor is still asleep beside her, one arm thrown across her waist, his breathing deep and even. She reaches for the phone carefully, not wanting to wake him. Unknown number. She almost deletes it without looking, gets dozens of spam messages daily. But something makes her open it. It's a photograph. Her and Connor leaving his townhouse together at 6 a.m. last Thursday. The angle is clear. Surveillance, not paparazzi, professional. Someone with expensive equipment and specific intentions. The message below: interesting company for an objective journalist. Publish your story and this goes to every news outlet in the country. Your credibility destroyed. His career over. Both investigations compromised. Her blood goes cold. Connor stirs, reaching for her. "Come back to bed. We have a problem." Her voice sounds distant to her own ears. A big one. He's instantly alert, the relaxed warmth disappearing as the politician-soldier hybrid she's learned to recognize takes over. "What kind of problem?" She hands him the phone. His expression doesn't change as he studies the image, but his knuckles whiten around the device. "When was this taken?" "Last Thursday, the night we finalized the cryptocurrency trail." "Who else knows you're investigating this?" "My editor. My source at the Treasury Department, the hacker who got us the server logs." Zara's mind races, journalist instincts warring with panic. "But none of them would threaten us. They want the story published." Connor's jaw tightens and something dark crosses his face. Anger, yes, but also recognition, like he's been expecting this. Unless one of them is compromised, or unless... He stops. "Unless what?" "Unless I led them right to you." He hands back her phone like it burns. "Christ, Zara, I've been so careful about the investigation, but I never thought, I didn't consider they'd follow me to track down who I was working with." "You think you were followed?" "I think I've been under surveillance since the first day I started collecting evidence against them, and now they know you're involved." He turns away, running both hands through his hair. "This is what I was afraid of. They can't kill the story if you're discredited as a journalist sleeping with her source." The word sleeping hangs in the air, clinical and reductive and technically accurate. "We don't know it's them," Zara says, but her voice lacks conviction. "Could be anyone. Political rival, tabloid journalist. With telephoto surveillance equipment stationed outside my townhouse?" Connor's voice is sharp. "This is professional. This is them sending a message. We know we're watching and we can destroy both of you whenever we want." Zara's phone buzzes again. Another unknown number, 48 hours. Walk away or everyone sees. They try to work. Try to figure out who's behind the surveillance, how much they know, whether the evidence has been compromised. But the photograph sits between them like a third presence, poisoning every interaction. "We could publish now," Zara suggests at 2 a.m., laptop open, fingers hovering over keys. They're back at her apartment, papers spread across every surface, neither of them having slept. Beat them to it, get the story out before they can discredit us. With what? We're still missing the final connection between the defense contractor and the Senate committee. Connor is pacing like a caged animal, tie loosened, shirt wrinkled. He looks like he's aged 10 years in 24 hours. If we publish incomplete evidence, they'll poke holes in it, and the whole thing falls apart. If we wait, they destroy us first. They're going to destroy us anyway. He rounds on her, and she sees real fear in his eyes for the first time. That's what you're not getting. The moment we started this, the moment you asked that question at the press conference, our fates were sealed. We're dead journalists walking. So what do you suggest? We just give up? I suggest you publish without me. Use the evidence, cite anonymous sources, keep my name out of it entirely. Your credibility stays clean, the story breaks, and when they come for me, at least you're safe. I'm not throwing you to the wolves. I'm volunteering to be thrown. His voice cracks, control slipping. Because the alternative is watching you get destroyed for trusting me. And I can't do that, Zara. I did trust you. I still trust you. Then you're a fool. He stops pacing, and when he looks at her, his eyes are hollow. I'm a politician, Zara. Lying is what we do. Manipulation is how we survive. How do you know any of this was real? How do you know I didn't orchestrate this entire thing? The investigation, the affair, all of it, just to control the narrative when it finally broke? The accusation is so similar to her own fears that it lands like a physical blow. You don't mean that, don't I? He's spiraling now, self-destructive and reckless. Maybe I realized early on that the best way to manage this scandal was to make the journalist investigating it fall for me. Keep her close, know what she knows, guide the story in the direction that does the least damage. Stop it. Why? Because it hurts? Because you want to believe I'm better than that? He laughs, bitter and ugly. I've voted for legislation I knew was corrupt. I've taken money from people I knew were criminals. I've lied to my constituents, my colleagues, my own family. Why would you be different? Because I've seen you at 3 a.m. when you think no one's watching. Zara shoots back, standing to face him. I've heard you talk about your sister, about your father, about the version of yourself you're trying to become. That's not performance, Connor. That's you. You don't know me. I know you better than you think. And I know you're terrified right now. Not of them, but of me. You're scared I'm going to believe that photograph, believe we're just a source and a journalist who got too close, and walk away. The silence that follows is deafening. Connor's chest is heaving, hands clenched at his sides, and she can see him fighting something. Panic, maybe, or the urge to run. Finally, quietly, would you blame me for being scared? I've already lost everything else. I can't. He stops, jaw working. I can't lose you too. Zara wants to go to him, wants to close the distance and tell him they'll figure this out together, that she's not going anywhere. But whatever this thing between them is, it's strong enough to survive blackmail and surveillance and the implosion of both their careers. But the journalist in her is screaming warnings. This is how they win. They make you emotional, compromise your objectivity, force you to choose between the story and the source. I need time, she says instead, to think, to verify our evidence is still secure, to figure out our next move. How much time? I don't know, a day, 2. Something in his expression closes off, professional distance slamming back into place like armor. Right, of course. Connor. No, it's fine, it's smart. He grabs his jacket from her couch. You should verify everything. Trust no one, including me, especially me. That's not what I meant, isn't it? He pauses at the door, and when he looks back, his eyes are empty. For what it's worth, Zara, every moment with you was real, even if you can't believe that right now. Then he's gone, and she's alone with her laptop, a threatening photograph, and the growing certainty that she just made a terrible mistake. Zara's editor calls at 9 a.m. She's been awake all night, hasn't showered, is surviving on coffee and anxiety. We need to talk about your investigation, Marcus says without preamble. I'm close to publication. You're close to getting sued and taking the entire newspaper down with you. His voice is tight in a way she's never heard before. Marcus has been her champion for 5 years, defended her through controversial stories and angry sources. This is different. I got a call from Senator Walsh's chief of staff. Apparently, there are concerns about your objectivity. Her stomach drops. They threatened you. They suggested that a journalist romantically involved with her subject might not be the most credible source for breaking a major political scandal. They have photographs, Zara, timestamps, documentation. Documentation. She hasn't been to a hotel with Connor, which means they're fabricating evidence, she says, to discredit me before I can publish. Or, you've been compromised and I need to pull you from the story. Marcus's voice softened slightly. Zara, I've known you for 5 years. You're one of the best investigative journalists I've ever worked with, so I'm asking you directly. Have you been romantically involved with Senator Walsh during this investigation? The lie would be easy. Deny everything, claim the photos are fake, maintain professional distance. It would buy her time. But Zara built her career on truth, and she can't start lying now. Yes, she says, we've been involved for about a month. Marcus is silent for a long moment. Jesus, Zara. It doesn't compromise the investigation. If anything, I've been more thorough in verifying everything because I knew my credibility would be questioned. Every piece of evidence can be corroborated by independent sources. It doesn't matter how good the evidence is if nobody believes you. He sounds exhausted. I'm giving you 24 hours. Prove to me your investigation is clean, your sources are solid, and your relationship with Senator Walsh hasn't compromised your objectivity. Otherwise, I'm killing the story and probably firing you. He hangs up before she can respond. Zara stares at her phone, feeling the walls closing in. Her career, her investigation, everything she's worked for, all of it crumbling because she made the catastrophic mistake of sleeping with her source. Her phone rings again. Connor. Don't publish, he says without preamble, voice rough like he hasn't slept either. Whatever you're thinking, whatever pressure you're under, don't. They got to my editor. I know, they got to mine too. He sounds exhausted, defeated. My chief of staff just quit, said he can't work for someone under FBI investigation. FBI? Apparently there's an inquiry into whether I've been funneling classified information to journalists. They're going to raid my office tomorrow morning. The pieces click into place with horrible clarity. They're not trying to kill the story, they're trying to kill us. Finally, we agree on something. His laugh is bleak, empty. Here's what's going to happen. They'll arrest me on obstruction charges, paint you as a journalist who slept with a source for access, and bury the real story under a mountain of scandal. By the time the truth comes out, if it ever does, no one will care because we'll both be too discredited to matter. So we're just giving up? I'm saying maybe you should. Walk away, Zara. Save your career. Find another story. And let them win? And let you survive. His voice drops, raw and honest. I can't protect you from this. I thought I could, but I was wrong. Everything I touch turns to poison. And you deserve better than being collateral damage in my war. Stop trying to be noble. It doesn't suit you. I'm not being noble. I'm being realistic. A pause, and she hears the sound of liquid being poured. Whiskey, probably. They're coming for me tomorrow. Once that happens, any association with me will destroy you. So I'm asking, begging, really? Walk away. Tonight. Block my number. Tell your editor I deceived you, and find a different story to break. And the corruption? The evidence we spent months gathering? I'll leak it anonymously. It won't have the same impact, but at least the information will be public. Zara wants to scream, wants to throw her phone across the room, wants to somehow rewind to 3 months ago when this was just an investigation, and Connor was just a source, and her biggest problem was convincing her editor to give her more time. I'm not walking away, she says finally, from you or the story. Zara, I'm not walking away from you, and I'm not walking away from the story. So either help me figure out how to fight this or get out of my way and let me work. The silence stretches so long she thinks he's hung up. Then, there might be one option, but you're going to hate it. Try me. We give them exactly what they want. His voice is steady now, politician Connor taking over. Admit to the affair. Make it public on our terms before they can weaponize it. You write an op-ed. Journalist falls for source. Relationship clouds judgment. Stepping back from investigation. I issue a statement corroborating, taking full responsibility. That's your plan? Destroy both our reputations voluntarily? It's not destruction if we control the narrative. We admit to the affair, you publicly distance yourself from me, and then, 3 days later, your newspaper publishes the full investigation, attributed to your editor, based on evidence you gathered before the relationship began. Zara's mind races through the implications. They'll still attack the credibility. Let them. By then, the evidence will be public. Other journalists will verify it. The story takes on its own life. He pauses. And you'll be clean. Professionally damaged, but recoverable. It's the best outcome I can give you. What about you? I'll be fine. Liar. I'll survive, he amends. Maybe even keep my seat if I'm very lucky and very convincing about being manipulated by a beautiful journalist. You're not blaming this on me. I'm taking the fall for both of us. It's different. It's bullshit. It's the only play we have left. His voice softens. Zara, listen to me. This was always going to end with me taking the hit. I knew that from the beginning. But I can make sure you walk away with your career intact and the story published. That's enough. That has to be enough. She wants to argue, wants to find another solution, some brilliant third option that saves them both. But the clock is ticking, and tomorrow the FBI raids his office, and after that, there's no controlling anything. I need to think, she says. You have 2 hours, then I'm holding a press conference with or without your consent. He hangs up, and Zara is left staring at her laptop, at months of work that might die tomorrow, at evidence that could change everything if only they can keep it alive long enough to publish. Her phone buzzes. Another unknown number. Time's up. We own you both now. But this time, Zara doesn't feel afraid. She feels angry. Angry enough to do something reckless. Zara arrives to find the press room already packed. She tried calling Connor last night, tried to stop this, but he didn't answer. Just sent a single text at midnight. Trust me. One last time. Connor stands at the podium looking exhausted but composed, and when his eyes find hers in the crowd, something passes between them. Apology, determination, goodbye. I've called this conference to address rumors about my conduct and to take full responsibility for errors in judgment that have compromised an ongoing investigation. His voice is steady, political, nothing like the man who whispered her name in the dark just 2 nights ago. Over the past 4 months, I developed an inappropriate relationship with Ms. Zara Mitchell, an investigative journalist who was pursuing a story related to my family's business dealings. The room explodes. Questions shouted, cameras flashing. Zara feels every eye turned toward her, feels her career imploding in real time. This relationship began after Ms. Mitchell approached me with questions about offshore accounts and defense contractor payments. In my eagerness to clear my family's name and cooperate with her investigation, I crossed professional boundaries. He's not looking at her now, playing to the cameras. I provided Ms. Mitchell with documents and access that should have gone through proper legal channels. I allowed personal feelings to compromise what should have been a purely professional exchange of information. Allowed personal feelings, as if it were that simple, as if they hadn't spent months building something that felt more substantial than any story. Ms. Mitchell conducted her investigation with integrity and professionalism, Connor continues. Any failures of judgment were mine alone. I take full responsibility for putting her in an impossible position and for potentially compromising important work, exposing corruption in government contracting. A reporter shouts, "Senator, are you saying you used a romantic relationship to manipulate press coverage?" I'm saying I failed to maintain appropriate boundaries, and I deeply regret any harm caused to Ms. Mitchell's reputation or career. Zara's hands clench. He's falling on his sword, painting himself as the seducer and her as the victim, and she wants to scream that it wasn't like that, except she can't, because the moment she defends him, she undermines the whole strategy. Another reporter. "Will you resign?" "I'll let the Senate Ethics Committee determine the appropriate response to my conduct." In the meantime, I'm recusing myself from all committee work related to defense contracting and government oversight. He finally looks at her again, and there's something in his eyes. Regret? Love? Please forgive me. I apologize to Ms. Mitchell, to this body, and to the American people for allowing personal weakness to compromise the public trust. Personal weakness. The words hit like a slap. He leaves the podium without taking more questions, surrounded by staffers who look like they're escorting a prisoner, and Zara is immediately swarmed by reporters shouting her name, demanding comments, asking if she was complicit or victimized or somewhere in between. She pushes through the crowd, chasing him down the hallway. "Connor!" He stops, and when he turns, his expression is carefully blank, the senator's mask firmly in place. Around them, staffers and journalists and random Capitol Hill employees are watching, phones out, recording. Everything. Ms. Mitchell. His voice is formal, distant. "I don't think we should speak without lawyers present." "Cut the bullshit. You can't just..." "I can and I did." His voice drops, urgent but controlled. "The FBI is executing their warrant in 20 minutes. By tonight, I'll be under formal investigation. This was the only way to separate you from the fallout. By making me look like I slept my way to a story? By making me look like I exploited a journalist for favorable coverage? There's a difference." His jaw tightens. "Your editor called me an hour ago. He's running the full investigation in tomorrow's edition, attributed to the entire investigative team based on documents obtained before our relationship began. You'll be listed as a contributor, but not the lead. Your career survives. And yours?" Was already over the moment I decided to do the right thing. He glances down the hall where his staffers are waiting, looking increasingly anxious. "I have to go. The lawyers..." "I don't care about the lawyers!" Her voice cracks and she doesn't care who's recording. "You don't get to decide this alone. We're partners." We were partners. The past tense lands like a punch. Now we're a scandal that threatens everything we worked for. So I'm containing the damage the only way I know how. By lying about what happened between us? I didn't lie. I said I crossed boundaries, developed inappropriate feelings, and compromised your investigation. All true. His eyes are bleak, and she sees the cost of this performance written in every line of his face. I just didn't mention that you felt the same way. Let them think I manipulated you. It's cleaner. It's not true. It's true enough. He steps back, creating distance that feels final. Goodbye, Zara. I hope the Pulitzer is everything you wanted. He walks away, surrounded by staffers and lawyers, leaving her standing in a hallway full of witnesses with cameras. And Zara realizes this is it. The end of their partnership, their investigation, whatever they were building together. The end of them. The FBI raid plays out on every news channel. Agents carrying boxes from Connor's office, his townhouse, even his car. His chief of staff gives a statement about cooperation and transparency. The Senate Majority Leader announces a full ethics investigation. And through it all, Connor maintains the same composed expression, taking responsibility, refusing to name co-conspirators, protecting everyone except himself. Zara's phone has been ringing non-stop. Other journalists asking for comment, her mother calling from Ohio, worried and confused, former colleagues offering sympathy that feels like judgment. She ignores all of it, watching Connor's life implode on television, until her phone rings with a number she doesn't recognize, but instinctively knows is important. "Ms. Mitchell? This is Special Agent Catherine Reeves, FBI. I need to ask you some questions about Senator Walsh." Zara's blood runs cold. "I don't have anything to say without my lawyer present." "This isn't about charging you with anything. This is about understanding the nature of your relationship with the senator and the documents he provided." The agent's voice is professional, neutral. "We can do this over the phone, or I can send agents to your apartment. Your choice." "What do you want to know?" "I want to know if you're aware that Senator Walsh has been under FBI surveillance for the past 18 months. That we've been building a case against the defense contractor network he claimed to be investigating, and that his decision to provide you with evidence that was part of an active federal investigation, constitutes obstruction of justice." The room tilts. "You've been investigating them?" "For 2 years. And Senator Walsh knew that." He had multiple meetings with federal prosecutors, was offered protection and immunity in exchange for cooperation and testimony. He refused. Papers rustle on the other end. Instead, he took evidence from our investigation and gave it to you, a journalist, which, legally speaking, is witness tampering and obstruction. That's not, he was trying to expose corruption, he was trying to control the narrative, make himself look like a hero instead of a co-conspirator. Agent Reeves's voice is harder now. We have recordings, Ms. Mitchell, of Senator Walsh discussing with his legal team how to manage the fallout and protect his image. This wasn't about justice. This was about PR. I don't believe you. Then believe the encrypted communications we found on his personal server. 8 months of messages between you two. Messages that show he knew exactly what he was doing, knew he was interfering with a federal investigation, knew he was using you to craft a specific narrative, knew that when this all came out, you'd be the one who took the fall while he played the martyr. Zara feels like she's going to be sick. You're lying. I'm offering you a deal. You testify about Senator Walsh's obstruction, provide us with all the evidence he gave you, and we'll grant you immunity. You walk away from this clean. A pause. Or you can go down with him when we charge him with obstruction, witness tampering, and conspiracy. Your choice. I need to talk to my lawyer. You have 24 hours. After that, I start issuing subpoenas, and this gets significantly less pleasant for everyone involved. Agent Reeves's voice softened slightly. For what it's worth, Ms. Mitchell, I think he did care about you, but he cared more about his reputation. Think about which one of you is on TV right now taking responsibility, and which one is being painted as a victim who didn't know better. The call ends, and Zara sits in the darkness of her apartment, her mind racing. Connor knew the FBI was already investigating, knew he was interfering with their case, knew he was using her to control how the story broke. Unless Agent Reeves is lying. Unless this is another manipulation, another way to turn them against each other. Her phone buzzes. Text from Connor's personal number. I know you're angry. I know this isn't how you wanted it to end. But please, Zara, whatever the FBI offers you, take it. Testify, cooperate, save yourself. This was always going to be my ending. Don't let it be yours too. She stares at the message, trying to read between the lines. Is he confessing? Warning her? Or is this more performance, more strategy? Another text. I'm sorry. For all of it. But mostly for making you doubt whether any of it was real. It was. You were. We were. Then, I love you. I should have said it when it mattered. Zara's hands are shaking as she types back. Did you know the FBI was already investigating? 3 dots appear, then disappear, appear again, finally. Yes. Did you use me to control the narrative? Longer pause this time. I used the situation to protect you. That's not the same thing. But did you know you were obstructing their investigation by giving me evidence? The dots appear and disappear several times. Finally. Yes, I knew. And I did it anyway because I didn't trust them to get it right, to make the story matter, to protect my family's name while still exposing the truth. A pause, then. I'm sorry. I should have told you, but I couldn't risk you walking away. Zara feels something break inside her. The anger, the betrayal, the horrible realization that she was played from the beginning, not in the way she feared, but in a way that's somehow worse because it was wrapped in genuine feelings and real evidence in the illusion of partnership. She types, "You used me. I protected you. There's a difference. Is there?" No response. Zara throws her phone across the room, then immediately regrets it because she needs it, needs to call her lawyer, needs to figure out what the hell to do next. But first, she pulls out her laptop and starts writing. Not the story she planned, not the corruption expose that was supposed to win awards and change legislation. A different story. The one about a journalist who got played by a politician she thought she could trust. About the blurry line between source and lover, between exposure and exploitation. About how sometimes the biggest corruption isn't in offshore accounts or defense contracts. It's in the way powerful men convince you that manipulating you is the same as protecting you. She drives to the FBI field office at midnight. Agent Reeves meets her in an interview room with coffee and a legal pad and an expression that suggests she expected this. I want immunity, Zara says without preamble. full immunity for me, my editor, and anyone at the newspaper who knew what we were doing. And I want you to drop the obstruction charges against Senator Walsh. Reeves raises an eyebrow. I can't promise that without knowing what you have. You're investigating defense contractor fraud, money laundering, and corruption involving multiple government officials. I have documented evidence linking $2.4 billion in fraudulent payments to 4 sitting senators, 2 cabinet members, and the CEO of Meridian Defense Systems. She pulls out a flash drive. Complete wire transfer records, encrypted communications, shell company formations, and testimony from 3 whistleblowers willing to go on record. Reeves's expression doesn't change, but her eyes sharpen with interest. Senator Walsh provided this? Senator Walsh spent 3 years gathering evidence against people who threatened his family. I spent 4 months verifying every piece of it and finding additional sources. Together, we built an airtight case that was supposed to be published in a major newspaper investigation. Why bring it to the FBI now? Because I just realized that publishing it won't matter if Connor and I are in prison, discredited, and unable to testify about how we obtained it. You need witnesses, you need people who can walk through every document, explain every connection, and stand up in court to bury these bastards. She leans forward, and there's steel in her voice now. So here's my offer. I give you everything. I testify. I cooperate fully. In exchange, you give Connor Walsh immunity too. You recognize that he was gathering evidence of crimes, not committing them, and you let us both walk away from this with our freedom, even if our reputations are destroyed. And if I say no, then I take this to the Attorney General, the Senate Intelligence Committee, and every journalist in Washington who isn't compromised by the people we're investigating. I burn it all down publicly, messily, and you lose any chance of controlling the narrative or protecting the integrity of your investigation. Reeves studies her for a long moment. You'd really go to prison to protect him? After he lied to you about the FBI investigation? I'd go to prison to finish the job we started. Connor just happens to be part of that. Zara meets her eyes steadily. Look, I know he manipulated the situation. I know he interfered with your investigation, but he did it because he didn't trust the system that failed his family for 3 years. And honestly, after watching how this played out, I don't blame him. That's not how the law works. Then maybe the law is the problem. Zara pushes the flash drive across the table. You'll have everything in an hour. Every file, every source, every piece of evidence we collected. But I want your word. If the evidence is as good as I say, you'll recommend immunity for both of us. If the evidence is as good as you say, I'll recommend it. Reeves extends her hand. But you're going to have to convince the U.S. attorney, and that's not going to be easy. Nothing about this has been easy. Why start now? They shake on it, and Zara pulls out her laptop, beginning the long process of walking through months of investigation, showing the timeline, explaining the sources, demonstrating how every piece connects to prove a massive systematic corruption scheme that reaches the highest levels of government. Hours pass. Agent Reeves asks sharp questions, takes detailed notes, calls in other agents to verify specific claims. The coffee runs out. The night wears on. Somewhere in this building, Connor is probably being interrogated, probably still trying to take full responsibility, to protect her, to be the hero in a story where they were both casualties. She types out a text, gave the FBI everything, told them the truth. We finish this together or not at all. She doesn't know if he'll get it, doesn't know if his phone has been confiscated or if he's even allowed to communicate. But 3 hours later, as dawn breaks and she's still walking Agent Reeves through cryptocurrency trails and offshore accounts, her phone buzzes. You're impossible and stubborn, and I'm furious with you for not taking the deal I set up. Also, I think I might love you. Terrible timing, I know. Zara smiles despite everything, despite the FBI interrogation, the impending scandal, the uncertainty of what comes next. Definitely terrible timing. Tell me again after we're not facing federal charges. It's a date, assuming we don't go to prison. When we don't go to prison, she corrects, echoing his earlier optimism back to him. We're going to win this, Connor, with you as my partner? I actually believe that. Agent Reeves looks up from her notes. That him? Yeah. You two are either the bravest people I've ever met or the stupidest. She closes her notepad. I'm recommending immunity, both of you. But the U.S. Attorney is going to want full cooperation, testimony, documents, everything. You'll be star witnesses in the biggest corruption trial in decades. We can handle that. And your relationship? That's going to come out, every detail. Defense attorneys will use it to question your credibility, your judgment, your motives. Let them. Zara stands, exhausted but somehow lighter than she's been in days. We've got nothing to hide anymore, and the evidence speaks for itself. The immunity deals came through, barely. The U.S. Attorney's Office spent 2 weeks verifying every piece of evidence before agreeing to drop obstruction charges in exchange for full cooperation. Now, Zara sits at a table facing the Senate Ethics Committee, television cameras broadcasting every word, and gives testimony that will end careers and start criminal prosecutions. She walks them through the investigation methodically, how she first identified suspicious patterns in defense contracting, how Senator Walsh came forward with evidence collected over 3 years, how together they traced $2.4 billion through 12 countries back to a coordinated scheme involving government officials and defense contractors. And your relationship with Senator Walsh, the committee chair asks, voice carefully neutral. When did that begin? Our professional relationship began 4 months ago when he approached me with evidence. Our personal relationship. She meets Connor's eyes across the room where he sits with his legal team. Developed as we worked together. It was inappropriate timing, but it didn't compromise the investigation. If anything, it gave me more reason to verify every piece of evidence meticulously, because I knew my credibility would be questioned. Do you believe Senator Walsh manipulated you? No, her voice is firm. I believe Senator Walsh spent 3 years trying to expose crimes that destroyed his family's reputation while protecting his sister from retaliation. I believe he trusted me with evidence that could get him killed because he thought I'd tell the story right. And I believe, she pauses, looking directly at the cameras. I believe he's one of the few honest people left in this city, which is probably why he's being crucified for crimes committed by people who are still collecting government paychecks. The room erupts. The chair gavels for order, but Zara doesn't back down. She's done being careful, done protecting people who don't deserve it. When it's Connor's turn to testify, he's brutally honest about everything. The threats against his sister, the years of carefully documenting crimes while appearing complicit, the calculated risk of approaching a journalist instead of the FBI. Why didn't you come forward sooner? The senator asks. Because I didn't trust the system to protect my family. I'd seen what happened to other whistleblowers, discredited, destroyed, their information buried by the very people they exposed. He leans forward, and there's fire in his eyes. I was wrong to handle it myself. I should have gone to the authorities immediately, but I'd watched these people operate for years, and I knew if I didn't have ironclad proof, they'd make me disappear like everyone else who threatened them. And Ms. Mitchell, why involve her? Because journalists can't disappear as easily as government witnesses. Because she had resources I didn't have, sources at Treasury, contacts in foreign banks, expertise in following money trails. And because he pauses, something softening in his expression. Because I needed someone I could trust absolutely, and she proved from day one that she cared more about the truth than about protecting powerful people. The Washington Truth publishes the full investigation across 16 pages. Front page headline, "The Meridian Conspiracy, How Defense Contractors and Government Officials Stole Billions." Zara's name is on the byline, along with 3 other journalists who verified her evidence. Connor is quoted extensively, acknowledged as the primary whistleblower who gathered initial documentation. Within hours, the CEO of Meridian Defense Systems is arrested at his home in Virginia. 2 senators announce they won't seek re-election. One is led out of his office in handcuffs by the next morning. The Senate Majority Leader calls for a full investigation into defense contracting procedures. The FBI announces charges against 14 individuals, including a Deputy Secretary of State. Zara's phone explodes with interview requests, job offers, congratulations from journalists across the country. Connor's phone stays mostly silent except for death threats and angry constituents demanding his resignation. They're both vindicated. They're both destroyed. Somehow, they're both still standing. Zara arrives first, choosing the same booth where they met months ago when everything was just beginning. She's wearing jeans and a sweater instead of professional attire. She left the Washington Truth 3 weeks ago to write a book about the investigation, about corruption and complicity, and the cost of telling the truth. Connor arrives looking thinner, more tired, but cleaner somehow, like a weight has been lifted. He resigned from the Senate the day after his testimony, issued a statement about serving the public trust better as a private citizen, and quietly moved his sister back to the States under her real name. "Hey," he says, sliding into the booth. "Hey yourself." They sit in silence for a moment, two people who destroyed their careers together and somehow survived. "I'm moving back to Belfast," Connor says finally. "Helping my sister's kids adjust to America was not going well. We're going home. Fresh start." Zara's heart sinks, though she knew this was coming. Knew that whatever they built during the investigation might not survive the aftermath. When? 2 weeks. There's a non-profit there working on government transparency and post-conflict reconstruction. They offered me a position. Apparently, American whistleblowers have marketable skills. Apparently. What about you? Book deal came through. 6 figures, which means I can actually afford rent while writing about how we exposed the most corrupt defense contracting scheme in modern history. She smiles slightly. "My agent thinks it'll be a bestseller. I think it'll get me blacklisted from every government source in Washington." Worth it? Every word. The bartender brings drinks they didn't order. Whiskey neat for him, red wine for her. Memory or surveillance, neither is sure anymore. "I owe you an apology," Connor says quietly, "for not telling you about the FBI, for interfering with their investigation without your knowledge, for making decisions about the case without asking. You were trying to protect me. I was being an arrogant asshole who assumed he knew better." He meets her eyes. "You deserved a partner who trusted you to make your own choices, even if those choices put you at risk. I didn't give you that, and I'm sorry. You also saved both our asses by gathering that evidence." Zara reaches across the table, touching his hand. "Could you have done it differently? Sure. But given the circumstances, a corrupt system, threats against your family, no one you could trust, I understand why you did it the way you did. That's generous of you. It's honest." She squeezes his hand. "I was angry when I found out, felt manipulated and used. But then I realized, you gave me the biggest story of my career. You trusted me with evidence that could have gotten us both killed. And when everything went to hell, you tried to take the fall alone to protect me. That's not manipulation. That's stupidity. Love." The word hangs between them, finally spoken aloud without qualifiers or fear. "That's what love looks like when you're both terrified and don't know how to ask for help." Connor's hand turns, fingers intertwining with hers. "I do love you. I know the timing is shit, and I'm moving to another continent, and we barely survived the last few months. But I need you to know." "I know." Zara's eyes are bright. "I love you too, even when I was furious with you, even when I thought you'd played me. Some part of me knew this broken, complicated, reckless thing between us was real. So what do we do about that?" "I don't know. You're moving to Belfast. I'm staying here to write the book." "Long distance is hard," Connor says slowly. "It is. And we're both about to be very busy. You with writing, me with nonprofit work." "True. And there's a decent chance we'll discover we don't actually work when we're not united against common enemies. There's also a decent chance we will." Zara smiles. "I'm willing to risk it if you are." Connor stands, moving around to her side of the booth, and pulls her to her feet. "I've risked my career, my freedom, and my entire family's reputation on you, Zara Mitchell. I think I can risk a transatlantic relationship." He kisses her, deep and slow and full of promise. When they break apart, he presses his forehead to hers. "Ground rules," Zara says. "Complete honesty, even when it's hard." "Agreed. We don't make decisions about each other's lives without consulting first." "Agreed. And if it doesn't work, if we try and realize we were just trauma-bonded journalists who got in too deep, we're honest about that too." "Agreed." He kisses her again. "But for the record, I don't think we're going to discover that." "No? No, I think we're going to discover that we're even better together when we're not actively committing federal crimes. Zara laughs, and it feels like breathing for the first time in months. That's a low bar. We'll clear it easily. Connor's apartment overlooks the River Lagan, small but comfortable, filled with boxes of documents for his transparency work and books about post-conflict reconstruction. Zara's been here 3 times in 6 months, long weekends stolen between her book tour and his non-profit commitments. They've learned each other in pieces, morning routines and coffee preferences, the way he gets quiet when stressed and she gets loud, his terrible habit of working until exhaustion, and her tendency to hyper-focus on research until he physically removes her laptop. They've fought, once spectacularly, after he gave an interview about government corruption without warning her it might affect her book's political framing. She accused him of still trying to control the narrative. He accused her of not trusting him to make independent decisions. They didn't speak for 3 days before he showed up at her hotel in New York with coffee and a genuine apology. They've learned to be honest about the hard parts, the days when the death threats feel overwhelming, the nights when she wakes up from nightmares about FBI raids, his guilt about the career she lost, her guilt about the reputation he destroyed. But they've also learned the good parts. The way he texts her random observations throughout the day. Saw a dog that looks like you, smart, stubborn, and slightly terrifying. The way she sends him edits of her book chapters because he's the only person who lived through it with her. The physical connection that's somehow better without the adrenaline and conspiracy theories because it's just them, choosing each other deliberately instead of falling together in crisis. Her book launches tonight at a bookshop in Cathedral Quarter. The Price of Truth, Inside the Meridian Conspiracy, hit the bestseller list before it even published, driven by public fascination with the scandal and the unconventional relationship at its center. Connor is nervous in a way he never was testifying to Congress. What if they hate it? They won't hate it. Zara adjusts his tie, smoothing the collar of his shirt. The reviews have been incredible. What if they hate me in it? She turns to face him fully. I wrote you as you are, complicated, flawed, trying to do the right thing even when it costs you everything. Some people will think you're a hero, some will think you're a fool, most will think you're human, which is all I wanted. Did you write about us? The epilogue mentions that we're still together, that we're trying to figure out what comes after you survive the thing you thought would kill you. She reaches up to touch his face. I don't write about intimate details in my work, if that's what you're worried about. I wasn't worried about that specifically, but now that you mention it, I have some professional boundaries remaining, thank you. He catches her hands, holding them against his chest. I'm proud of you. The book, the investigation, all of it. You did something that will matter for decades. We did. You wrote it. You made sense of chaos. You turned a complicated corruption scandal into a story people can understand and care about. He kisses her forehead. That's all you love. The endearment still surprises her sometimes. The Irish lilt he's regained living back home. The casual intimacy of someone who's chosen her deliberately, repeatedly, even when it would be easier to walk away. The bookshop is packed. Journalists, activists, former colleagues, curious readers. Zara reads the prologue about a press conference that changed 2 lives, answers questions about the investigation and its aftermath, signs books for hours until her hand cramps. Connor stays in the background, letting this be her moment. But when someone asks if Senator Walsh is here, and Zara instinctively looks toward where he's standing, their eyes meet across the crowded room. He smiles. That real smile, the one that says you're extraordinary and I'm lucky. And she remembers why they survived. Not because they were perfect, not because the timing was right or the circumstances ideal, but because they chose honesty over strategy, partnership over protection, and each other over the easier path of walking away. After the event, they walk along the river, Belfast lit up against the night sky. I've been offered a job in D.C., Connor says casually. Government accountability think tank. They want someone with inside knowledge of how corruption actually works. Zara's heart jumps. Would you take it? Depends. Are you planning to stay there, or are all those job offers from international papers going to pull you somewhere else? I'm staying, for now. The book did well enough that I can freelance, write what I want, turn down the stories that don't matter. She looks up at him. But I don't want you making career decisions based on me. Belfast is your home. Belfast was my home. Dublin was where I hid my sister. DC was where I pretended to be someone I wasn't. He stops walking, turning to face her fully. Wherever you are, that's where I want to be. If that's DC, I'll take the think tank job. If it's New York or London or somewhere else, I'll figure it out. That's not equal partnership. That's you reorganizing your life around mine. It's me being honest about what I want, which is waking up next to you more than 3 times a year, building something that isn't just long-distance phone calls and stolen weekends. His hands frame her face, thumbs brushing her cheekbones. I love you, Zara Mitchell. I loved you when you were grilling me in Senate hearings. I loved you when you were furious with me for trying to protect you. I love you now, successful and brilliant, and still somehow choosing me, despite having better options. I don't have better options. You have every option. You're the journalist who broke the story of the decade. And you're the senator who gave up everything to make sure the truth came out. She rises on her toes to kiss him, slow and deliberate. We're pretty evenly matched in the stubborn idealism department. So is that a yes to me moving back to DC? That's a yes to us figuring out what comes next together. If the think tank job is what you want, not what you think I need, then yes. But if you're happier here, we make the long distance work. I'm happiest where you are? That's disgustingly romantic. You love it? She does. God help her, she absolutely does. They walk back to his apartment hand in hand. And when they come together that night, it's slow and tender and completely different from those first, desperate encounters in the middle of the investigation. This is intimacy built on survival, on choosing each other after seeing the absolute worst, on love that's earned rather than fallen into. Connor is deliberate and attentive, watching her face, learning what makes her breath catch. His hand finds hers, fingers interlacing, and when she reaches that peak, it's with his name on her lips and the certainty that this, whatever complicated, hard-won thing they've built, is worth every risk they took. After, lying tangled together in the darkness, Zara says, "Move to DC." Yeah? Yeah, take the job. Let's try this. Really try. Not just stolen weekends and phone calls, but actual partnership. What if it doesn't work? Then at least we'll know. She turns to face him. But I think it will. I think we're going to be one of those couples who met under impossible circumstances and somehow made it work anyway. That's optimistic for you. I've learned from the best. She kisses him. So yes, come back to DC, build a life with me. Let's see what happens when we're not running for our lives. Connor pulls her closer, and she feels him smile against her hair. Okay, let's do it. Zara didn't win for the Meridian investigation. That went to the team at the Washington Truth, who published the comprehensive series. But her book won in the nonfiction category, recognized for its unflinching examination of corruption, complicity, and the cost of choosing truth over comfort. Connor sits in the audience wearing a suit he clearly hates, beaming with pride that makes every camera in the room turn toward him. The former senator turned accountability advocate, the whistleblower who sacrificed everything, the man who fell in love with a journalist and somehow convinced her to take a chance on him. In her acceptance speech, Zara thanks her editor, her sources, the FBI agents who chose prosecution over politics. And then, I want to thank Connor Walsh, who taught me that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to do the right thing, even when it costs you everything. Thank you for trusting me with your truth, for being the kind of partner who makes me better at what I do, and for proving that sometimes the best stories are the ones we live, not just the ones we write. The audience applauds. Connor looks like he might cry, which is wildly out of character and exactly who he is when he's not performing. After the ceremony, after the photographs and congratulations and networking obligations, they escape to their hotel room and collapse onto the bed, still in formal wear, exhausted and happy. We did it, Zara says to the ceiling. Exposed corruption, survived federal investigations, wrote a Pulitzer-winning book, and somehow didn't kill each other in the process. Speak for yourself. There were several moments I considered murder. Name one. The time you reorganized my entire filing system without asking. It was alphabetical by company name, instead of chronologically. It was chaos. It was my chaos, and you violated it. They're laughing, tangled together on expensive hotel sheets, and Zara realizes this is what they've built, not the dramatic affair born of conspiracy theories and death threats, but something quieter, more sustainable. Inside jokes and comfortable silence and choosing each other on purpose every single day. Thank you, Connor says quietly, turning his head to look at her. For taking the risk, for believing me when you had no reason to, for being brave enough to finish what we started, even when it would have been easier to walk away. Thank you for being worth the risk. He kisses her, slow and thorough and full of promise. When they break apart, he says, "So what's next? Another investigation? Another book? World domination?" "Actually," Zara says, pulling out her phone, "I got an interesting tip this morning. Cryptocurrency fraud involving several tech CEOs and at least one federal regulator. Could be big." Connor groans dramatically. "You're killing me." "You love it." "I absolutely do not." "Liar." He's smiling now. That real smile she's learned means he's already mentally mapping out investigation strategies. "Okay, fine, I love it. But this time, I know. Equal partners from the start. No protective lies, no strategic omissions, complete honesty about risk. I was going to say this time, we try to avoid federal charges, but yes, that too." Zara laughs, kissing him again, already thinking about sources and document trails and how to build a case that can't be buried. It's not what she planned when she showed up to that press conference 18 months ago, intending only to ask hard questions and expose corruption. But lying here with Connor, planning their next investigation, building something that feels like partnership and love and reckless hope all tangled together. This is so much better than any plan she could have made. "All right," she says, "let's do it." Just like that? No hesitation? With you? Always just like that. She learned that partnership doesn't mean sacrificing independence. It means trusting someone enough to be vulnerable while maintaining your own strength. She discovered that the best stories aren't just the ones you chase, but the ones you're brave enough to live. And she learned that love, real, complicated, survive anything love, looks nothing like the romance novels and everything like someone who knows your worst qualities and chooses you anyway. He learned that heroism isn't martyrdom. It's allowing people to save you when you've spent years trying to save everyone else. He discovered that redemption doesn't come from one grand gesture, but from the daily choice to be honest, even when honesty is terrifying. And he learned that sometimes the things you risk everything for, family, truth, love, are worth exactly that price, especially when you don't have to pay it alone. They learned that trauma bonding and genuine connection can coexist, that relationships built in crisis can survive peace, that choosing each other repeatedly, consciously, honestly, builds something stronger than any passionate affair born of danger and adrenaline. They learned to trust not just in moments of terror, but in the quiet spaces between chaos, and that's the real victory. The corruption was exposed, the criminals were prosecuted, the system changed, even if only incrementally. But more than that, two people who thought they'd destroy each other instead learned to build something that survived everything the world threw at them. And in the end, that might be the most important story of all.